Kevin O'Connell was talking about J.J. McCarthy during his press conference yesterday, and I think he revealed how he truly feels about J.J. and specifically the quarterback position, and we'll dive into it on today's show. Also, adofo-mensah had a lot to say, and it looks like he wants an upgrade at the quarterback position, but I'll be explaining to you guys why I think Quezzy thinks the way he is thinking on the second part of today's show. And then also, I just got my take on the Vikings quarterback position because a lot of people have a lot to say, and I'm pretty confident on my take on where I stand at the Vikings QB spot. But KOC was talking about JJ, saying this. JJ, I was really encouraged by the type of football he started to play towards the second half of the season and finishing the way he did. We spent a lot of time talking about what the layers of change really were, and I think we all just tried to have a mindset on completions and however we can generate them. We started to see a little bit of that to show up. We saw some explosives show up, saw the ability to kind of balance that with what I thought at many points this year our run game was productive enough for us to move the football and stay in a lot of games. And, there's no doubt with J.J. McCarthy that we saw a lot of improvements on his game, especially throughout the second half of the season. But the question becomes, is this enough for the Vikings to fully commit to him for next season? Obviously, Kevin O'Connell, adofo-mensah, they are deciphering that, and they're trying to get the answer to that question as it stands right now because, yes, those flashes were great. He played some great football, especially the last 4 games of the season. But is this enough for the Vikings brass to be fully invested in him? We'll see. And the numbers for JJ on the final 4 games compared to the first 6, they are pretty eye-opening. Even just the record, the Vikings being 4-0 compared to 2-4, but we saw the turnovers be a big-time issue during the first 6 games, him having only 8 total touchdowns to 11 turnovers, only averaging 154.8 passing yards per game, and then even him just taking an uptick in just his productivity. Him completing 54 of 84 passes compared to 86 of 159 in the first 6 games. Yes, he played a lot better football. Now the question becomes how much are they going to value that? Because the Vikings, they played some of the worst defenses in the league during those final 4 games. Obviously the Dallas Cowboys, Washington Commanders, New York Giants, they were some of the worst, defenses in the league this past season. And even when JJ was in against the Green Bay Packers, they had all backups at the on that defense during that game in Week 18. So really, how much you putting into that? I don't know if the Vikings are putting a whole lot. And KOC talked about improving the quarterback room, saying ultimately, I think in the quarterback room, it's about having just the deepest, most talented room you possibly can every single year. What that looks like at a pretty impactful position on your salary cap when you're able to possibly plan for your depth chart looking in a way where you can be competitive no matter what. I think there has to be competition at quarterback. I think that's what's going to make everybody better in that room. It's going to be what makes our entire offense thrive through that competition. And, at least the way Kevin O'Connell is talking right here, it seems like the Vikings learned their lesson from last season because, I was in the camp that they should roll out with J.J. McCarthy. Now, I'll eat crow there. I was fully wrong on that. They obviously should have brought in, an Aaron Rodgers or a Sam Darnold last season just to give maybe J.J. one more year to learn behind the scenes. But I think they learned from the fact that, hey, we didn't value the backup quarterback position. We traded for Sam Howell on draft night, and then we cut Sam Howell and signed Carson Wentz. Clearly, they didn't value that position, as much as they should have. They were more valuing the comp pick formula as the biggest reason why to not go out there and sign an elite backup quarterback. And honestly, that could have been the difference between the Vikings playing a playoff game and to where they were at the end of the season, 9-8, and not making the playoffs. Now, I will say on the J.J. McCarthy front, I do believe in him in the long term. Now, we'll see about next season. He will have to take a ton of massive strides to get to the point where Kevin O'Connell and this Vikings brass feel confident in him being QB1. Because if he's going to have the same quarterback play he did last season, the Vikings will be in the exact same spot. But I do believe in J.J. McCarthy developing. He's still a very young kid, 23 years old, only played 10 games. They only finished 8 of those games. Now, obviously, the biggest red flag with JJ we can talk about on the field all we want, but it's the injuries. One, will he be able to stay healthy? And 2, if he is healthy, will he be able to develop throughout the season? Will we potentially have at least just serviceable quarterback play at that spot? And if you do have, serviceable quarterback play, if he can get to a Bo Nix level with him on that rookie deal, that would be huge for this team moving forward because there is still a lot of talent on this roster. So I'll ask you guys this. Should J.J. McCarthy be QB1 next season? If you guys think he should, go down there, hit that thumbs up icon. But if you guys disagree and you guys don't want JJ to be the QB1 next season, comment why down below. All right, so Kwesi Adofo-Mensah also was talking about J.J. McCarthy, and we shared this quote on a past show, but I want to give you guys my full thoughts. If you guys didn't see the quote, this is what it was. I want the Vikings to achieve our goals when asked about J.J. McCarthy, so he's kind of dodging the question, and he said, and I think one of those goals is to make playoff runs. I think he has the character and ability to be the person to do that for our organization. If I say that in 2026, that kind of binds us into a certain area. He wants it more than anybody I've ever been around, and I think Kwesi knows his seat is scorching hot right now. Like, I'm honestly still a little shocked that Kwesi has not been fired yet. And I don't know if he fully wants to take the risk of J.J. McCarthy being QB1. Because if J.J. McCarthy's QB1 and the Vikings maybe win 6 to 9 games next season, Kwesi will no doubtly be fired from the Vikings GM spot next offseason. And what is so also, I guess, eye-opening for the Vikings right now is, why have there been no firings? Like, why hasn't Chris Cupper been fired? One of the worst offensive line coaches in the league. I mean, we're watching the football or the NFL playoffs this past week, and we're seeing guys like Ed Ingram play good football. Ezra Cleveland play good football. We're seeing all these former Vikings offensive linemen where this coaching staff told the fans these guys aren't cut out, but then Chris Cupper still has a job. And all three of these guys should be on the hot seat. Kwesi, Chris Cupper, and Matt Daniels, especially the special teams coordinator, because also if you're looking at this season, special teams was probably a big reason for the difference between the Vikings winning 9 and 11 games this season. I can just think about the Bears game specifically, but even that Ravens game, having the muff punt, not being, too, solid on kick return. Like, the Vikings, their special teams, yes, they were pretty damn good because of Will Reichert and Ryan Wright, but I just feel like the coaching could get a massive upgrade. And, even though the Vikings season, they ended 9-8, it was still a disaster. This was a $350 million roster that they spent on this team this past season. And you went 9-8 and you were eliminated from the playoffs in early December. I don't think that should just go unnoticed, and people should be held accountable. And it's a little shocking that nobody has been held accountable so far. So coming up next year, I'll give you guys my take on the Vikings quarterback situation. A lot of different people have been chiming in on this, but I'll give you guys my take coming up here in just 1 second. But before we do so, I want to tell you guys about today's presenting sponsor, and that is Factor Meals. Now, if you guys head to factormeals.com/VikingsChat50 off and use code VikingsChat50 off to get 50% off your first Factor box, plus free breakfast for 1 year. Now, it's the new year, which means you guys probably got some big goals, and if you guys don't have time to cook, Factor makes it easy with fully prepared meals designed by dietitians and crafted by chefs, so you can eat well without all the shopping and cooking. Now, I love Factor because they have no refined sugars, no artificial sweeteners, no refined seed oils. Love the Texas cheddar burger you guys see up on screen right now, but they have over 100 rotating weekly meals, and these options include high protein, calorie smart, a Mediterranean diet, GLP-1 support, and ready-to-eat salads. So if you guys could, click the link in the comment section and description of today's show. Head to factormeals.com/VikingsChat50 off and use promo code VikingsChat50 off to get 50% off your first Factor box, plus free breakfast for 1 year. Now, this offer is only valid for new Factor customers with code and qualifying auto-renewing subscription purchase. Make healthier eating easy with Factor. Now, my take on the Vikings quarterback situation, and I'll stand on this throughout the entire offseason, is J.J. McCarthy should be quarterback 1 next season unless they have a chance to go out there and get Joe Burrow. Now, I also think it is incredibly unlikely that Burrow will be traded this offseason, but if there is ever a chance that he could be dealt, you do it. You do what you can to go get Joe Burrow in Minnesota, because if this team could get Burrow, they would skyrocket to be one of the favorites in the NFC. But if it's not Burrow, it has to be J.J. McCarthy. He was the risk you took, so let's just play this out and not just quit on the kid after just 10 games starting. Now, I say all that to say this. The Vikings still need to bring competition into training camp. Like, it cannot just be where it's, hey, no doubt J.J. McCarthy is QB1. Bring in a little competition, but then let J.J. McCarthy go and earn and win that job. And then if he can't win that job, then we have our answer on McCarthy. But some comp for McCarthy that the Vikings could bring in here, and I think the most likely one is Kirk Cousins. But you also got a guy like Mac Jones. Maybe you trade a third-round pick for Mac. He's your high-end backup. Let those two duke it out, and then that's your quarterback room. You could maybe go out there and sign a Malik Willis. You could go trade for an Anthony Richardson for damn near a 7th-round pick. But also, what about a little Geno Smith? Now, I think if Geno is brought in, I think it would be a little tough for JJ to beat him out as it stands right now, even though Geno was flat out horrible this past season. Geno's just a high-end player there. But I do think the most likely option for the Vikings, and one that's starting to make a whole lot more sense, is Kirk Cousins. And I understand the drama around Kirk, what that would do to the fan base if they brought back Kirk Cousins, what that would do to JJ McCarthy mentally is definitely a factor the Vikings have to consider here. But there is a likely scenario where Kirk Cousins is cut by the Atlanta Falcons. You bring him in on a 1-year, $10 million deal. I could see it really happening that Kirk Cousins is a backup quarterback next season. We'll do a full show on Kirk here coming up this weekend. But if you guys made it to the end of today's show, offseason just getting started. If you guys watch this entire thing, hit me with a skull down below in the comments section. Appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. We'll get on out of here. As always, Skol Vikes.